It is Friday. Therefore, it is Brunch with Bernie time. Our hour with Senator Sanders, our national town hall meeting. Hello, Senator.
How are you, Tom?
I am great. I hope you are well, and I'm curious what's on your mind today.
Well, there's a lot on my mind. It has been a busy week in Washington, and I think a whole lot of issues are surfacing that need to be discussed a bit. There was a report this week, kind of shocking, I think, from the Census Bureau, which talks about the state of the American economy for working families. And I think, Tom, when you try to understand why people are so angry, are so frustrated at what's going on and what's not going on in Washington, these numbers tell you why. Incredibly enough, in terms of median family income, that is the family in America in exactly the middle, it turns out that family has less income today, is earning less income than they did 24 years ago.
Well, that Reaganomics thing has really worked out well, hasn't it?
But can you stop and think? 24 years, and people are now median, that middle-income family, that family right in the middle, has less income than they did 24 years ago. And that just tells you where the economy is today. The typical middle-class family has seen its income go down by more than $5,000 since 1999 after adjusting for inflation.
Wow.
So if people are looking around and they are seeing, gee, I got all these iPads and I got all these iPhones and we got all this robotics and we got all this computer technology, and the result is that my income is going down. I'm not seeing any gains from this extraordinary increase in productivity. Meanwhile, what we are also seeing is that the wealthiest people and the largest corporations are doing phenomenally well. We learned recently that 95% of the new income generated in this country from 2009 to 2012 has gone to the top 1%. Got that?
Right.
95% in the last 3-year period that we have information for, 95% of new income has gone to the top 1%. We are seeing a greater and greater concentration of wealth and income in this country. You got the 400 wealthiest Americans now are worth a record-breaking $2 trillion, and the gap between the people on top and everybody else is growing wider. Poverty, 46.5 million, the largest number of people ever in poverty. So if you take a look at the economy in America, what's happening is pretty simple. Middle class disappearing, poverty very, very high, but the people on top doing phenomenally well. Corporate America enjoying record-breaking profits. Wall Street, after they were bailed out 5 years ago, is now doing extraordinarily well, paying their CEOs record-breaking salaries. So that's one thing that's going on. And then back in the world that I live in Washington, you're seeing my Republican friends completely ignoring this reality. So at a time when 47 million Americans have no health insurance whatsoever, their response to the health care crisis is to vote to repeal funding for Obamacare. Now, I am a single-payer advocate, so I think Obamacare is not my preferred choice. But if you provide health insurance for 30 million more Americans, if you do away with this obscenity called pre-existing conditions, which deny people health care, if you can lower the cost of prescription drugs for seniors by filling in that donut hole, if you make sure that kids under 26 can stay within their family's health insurance program, if you provide free screening for people, if you fund and expand community health centers all over this country, there are some very, very important parts of Obamacare that we should support. We should try to make it better. But the idea, when you have 47 million Americans with no health insurance, many others with huge deductibles, expensive co-payments, that the solution for my Republican friends is to completely defund Obamacare is totally nutso in my view. The other point that I want to make is that I think right now people are focusing on the potential shutdown of the government, whether or not we will get a budget or a continuing resolution. And the other drama that will follow a few weeks later is whether or not we lift the debt ceiling. In terms of the debt ceiling, the issue is pretty simple. For a start, everybody should know, and I'm afraid many people do not, that we have made very significant progress in recent years in dealing with the deficit. It used to be about $1.4 trillion. Now, more or less, it is about half of that, about $700 billion. That's still a lot of money, but we have cut the deficit in half. That is not chicken feed. That's some real gains in that area. The crisis that we face now, to my mind, is not the deficit, but it is that 14 million people, 14% of our population, remain unemployed or underemployed, that real wages for millions of Americans have gone down, that we have a minimum wage barely over $7 an hour, which is totally inadequate. So the real challenge that we face right now is creating millions of jobs, and there are a lot of ways that we can do that, raising wages in this country, changing our trade policy. But the time now is to focus on the economy and jobs and income and wealth and income inequality, not simply be obsessed with the deficit. Now, in that regard, my Republican colleagues over in the House yesterday voted to cut some $39 billion over a 10-year period for food stamps, for the SNAP program. Everybody should know that 85% of the people who receive food stamps are either children, and we have the highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world. Almost 22% of our kids live in poverty. Their parents often are working people trying to take care of a family at $8, $9, $10 an hour, which you can't do. They are people with disabilities. They are senior citizens. Those are the 85% of the people who are receiving food stamps. And our Republican friends who don't have the guts to take on Wall Street, they don't have the guts to take on corporate America who sends our jobs to China, they don't have the guts to take on those companies who are destroying unions. They're very tough when it comes to taking on poor people. My God, they are just also courageous. And I think that is pretty pathetic. The other point that I would make is that while a lot of attention is going to be focused on the budget and seeing whether or not there's going to be a government shutdown on October 1st, and whether or not we lift the debt ceiling so that for the first time in the history of America we do not default on our debts and drive the entire country and world economy into chaos, because when the largest economy in the world suddenly refuses or doesn't have the ability to pay its debt, it's going to cause national and international chaos. But it is also important to focus on really what some of these Republicans have in mind, what their end game is. And their end game is not simply not raising the debt ceiling or shutting down the government. It really goes beyond that. And I had my staff do a little research, Tom, and we looked at the platform of the Texas Republican Party. And we did that because Texas is obviously a very large state. It is a conservative state, very conservative Republican governor. And it was important to know that what happens in Texas, the ideas discussed in Texas, really end up becoming mainstream for Republicans. So in a minute, maybe we'll talk a little bit about where the future lies for our right-wing Republicans and really what they want to do to America.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. And that's probably why Rick Perry's running those obnoxious ads here in Maryland about, y'all come to Texas. We'll be right back with more Senator Sanders.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's our Brunch with Bernie hour, our national town hall meeting with Senator Bernie Sanders, taking your calls right here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Senator Sanders?
Yeah, give me one more minute here, Tom, and then we'll open up the lines. How's that?
Bernie, may I? The people listening to us on commercial radio stations are in a commercial break right now. So we've got all our Pacifica radio stations with us and all of our Free Speech TV viewers with us, which is about half our audience. But the other half of our audience won't hear that. So can we do it when we come back from the next break in 4 minutes?
We can sure do that.
Okay, that'll be perfect. So let's just take a call from one of our from one of our Free Speech TV viewers. Susan in Wanna, Washington. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, Mr. Sanders, it is truly an honor to finally get to speak with you, Bernie.
Thank you.
How do we stop this insanity? I mean, I feel like the Dutch trying to stick my finger in the well, and it's like I live off from what I don't consider entitlement program. It's $1,011.80 change, yet I'm $11 over budgeted to qualifying for SNAPs. As for Wheels on Meals, they're frozen meals, so at the cost of utilities, even if I could get such an animal, being a domestic violence survivor, I mean, my world is spinning out of control. And truly, how do you stop the insanity?
Okay, Susan, thank you. First of all, thanks for calling.
I'm homeless.
Thank you for calling and for telling us what's going on in your life. And you know what? When we talk about how we address problems, one of the ways we do it, Susan, is just what you have done. In my view, this right-wing extremist ideology, which wants to basically do away with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, education, the EPA, food stamps, etc., this is an ideology which comes nowhere close to representing where most of the American people are. My guess is maybe 15%, maybe 20%. But what happens is, because these guys are so well organized and so well funded, this is, Koch brothers funding and so forth, they are able to perform well above their weight and exercise a lot more power than they rightfully are entitled to in terms of who they're representing. So I think, Susan, the fact that you are willing to stand up and say, look, I'm struggling right now, and I believe in an America where everybody has certain minimal rights, is a good step forward. And we need more and more people to do that. Next month, I'm going to be going and speaking to a number of groups in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. And the reason I am going down there is I think that the folks in these states really don't get terribly much exposure to progressive ideas. I mean, all that comes over their radio and all that often comes from their political leaders is a right-wing ideology. So I would say, Susan, what we have to do is, first of all, understand that the views that we hold, more or less, I mean, not everybody agrees with everybody on everything, but more or less the idea that we should live in a society where government plays an important role in making sure that everybody, that our kids, our elderly, people with disabilities, people who are hurting, have at least a minimal standard of living. That is what the majority of the people believe in. That is what they believe in. And we more and more people coming up and saying, you know what, that's the America I want. I don't want an America where a handful of billionaires control the economy and where we have the highest rate of childhood poverty, where we have people sleeping out on the streets, where we have people can't afford to eat with decent nutrition. So we've got to organize and we've got to educate. We've got a lot of work in front of us.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us. We'll be right back with more of your questions and the end of Bernie's rant right after this. Welcome back. 20 minutes past the hour. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. And Bernie, yesterday on the radio, I was wondering out loud, why am I seeing these ads where Rick Perry is running ads in Maryland, which is right next door to Washington, D.C. here, so we see them on our TV shows, saying, come on down to Texas. We got to figure it out. This state knows how to run things.
Yep.
What's the deal?
Well, let me just talk a little bit about Texas and the Texas Republican Party platform. And the reason I mention that is not to just focus on Texas, is this is obviously one of the largest states in our country, one of the more important states. But equally important, the ideas that often emanate from the Texas Republican Party very often become mainstream for the Republican Party nationally. They kind of morph their way all over the country. I want to just read some excerpts. This is not Bernie Sanders talking. I'm reading some excerpts that come from the 2012 Texas Republican Party platform. And I read these things so that people understand where our right-wing friends are coming from. It's not just a question of shutting down the government. It's not just a question of cutting food stamps. This is where they want to go. They say, and I quote, we support an immediate and orderly transition to a system of private pensions based on the concept of individual retirement accounts and gradually phasing out the Social Security tax. End of quote. What does that mean? We're going to get rid of Social Security. Got over 50 million people in this country now on Social Security. It has gone a long way toward lowering poverty among seniors. It has been there in good times and bad. They want to destroy Social Security, and for those people who have the money, they can invest in Wall Street. Okay? Furthermore, quote, and this should be of interest to veterans, especially those veterans who are getting pretty good health care right now at the Veterans Administration. Quote, we support the privatization of veterans' health care. Okay? Well, that speaks for itself. In other words, they want to abolish veterans' health care, probably want to give these guys vouchers, and good luck to them. Then the next point they make, quote, we support abolishing all federal agencies whose activities are not specifically enumerated in the Constitution, including the Departments of Education and Energy. Well, the world is struggling now with the planetary crisis of global warming. We need a strong energy department to help the United States lead the world in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to sustainable energy and energy efficiency so we can save the planet. And their solution is abolish the Department of Energy. Right now in this country, as many working families know, we have a major crisis in terms of affordable child care. What they want is, quote, we oppose mandatory kindergarten, end of quote. Quote, we believe the Environmental Protection Agency should be abolished, end of quote. We quote, we recommend repeal of the 16th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution with the goal of abolishing the IRS and replacing it with a national sales tax collected by the states, end of quote. What does that mean? It means substantially lower taxes for the rich and large corporations, higher taxes for working people. We believe, next quote, quote, we believe the minimum wage law should be repealed, end of quote. Republican platform, State of Texas, 2012. We believe the minimum wage law should be repealed. Now, right now, people don't know this. We're having a debate. Some of us believe that at $7.25, minimum wage is much, much too low. We got to raise the minimum wage. Some people say yes, some people say no. Most people think we should raise the minimum wage. What these guys believe is we should abolish the concept of the minimum wage because, Tom, we're interfering with the freedom of workers and employers to mandate that at least people have a minimum wage. And what these guys literally want, and everybody should know this, is that in high unemployment areas where workers are forced to compete heavily against each other for jobs, under their future, under this right-wing future, people will be working for $3 or $4 an hour because there will be no floor on wages. You could pay anybody anything you want. They want the government out of that area. So in other words, what this closing the government is out, shutting down government, this debt ceiling debate, this is only the window trimming for a much deeper right-wing ideology, which essentially wants to bring us back to the days where we abolished every single piece of legislation passed in the last 80 years to protect workers, to protect low-income people, to protect children, to protect senior citizens, to protect the sick, all gone. And we're back to a day where a handful of billionaires control the economy, control the political life of the nation, because with Citizens United, these guys can buy and sell politicians. And if you are poor and desperate, maybe you can get some charity, if people have a mind to give you some charity, or maybe not. And that is their future for America. So people should understand that when you see a $39 billion cut for food stamps, that's just the beginning of their attack. when you see their willingness to shut down government, well, that should be no surprise. These guys don't very much believe in the concept of government. So that's kind of where we are.
That is astounding. Bernie, we have just a little less than a minute, not enough time to bring a caller in. Can I share with you a couple of sentences from Dwight Eisenhower's 1956 Republican platform?
Yep.
This is Republican platform, 1956 Dwight Eisenhower. The record of performance of the Republican administration on behalf of our working men and women goes still further. The federal minimum wage has been raised for more than 2 million workers. Social Security has been extended to an additional 10 million workers and the benefits raised for 6.5 million. The protection of unemployment insurance has been brought to 4 million additional workers. There have been increased workmen's compensation benefits for longshoremen and harbor workers, increased retirement benefits for railroad employees, and increased wages and improved welfare and pension plans for federal employees. And they go on. He goes just on and on about all these progressive things.
Tom, that is really, really interesting.
That was my dad's Republican Party.
That is really, really interesting because this shows you the transformation of American politics and the growth, the ascendancy of right-wing extremism in this country. There is virtually no Republican who would adhere to the list of programs that you just mentioned.
Yeah. In fact, they say we must assure equal pay for equal work regardless of sex. This is the 1956 Republican presidential platform. It's incredible. Senator Sanders will be taking your calls when we come right back. It's 28 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
It is Brunch with Bernie. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls right after this break. 28 minutes before the hour. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Ready to pick up some phone calls, Bernie?
Let's do it.
Okay, Marcia in Angier, North Carolina. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, thank you. Senator Sanders, I wanted to ask if it's possible to do single-payer health care in stages, I guess is the way to say it. And let me explain real quick what I mean. In general, working people are paying so that people who are very poor can have Medicaid, and working people are paying so that people who are disabled can have it. And I'm trying to figure out if we could just pay the same amount that is coming off of our checks for that to provide for those of us who want it, for those working people who want it. And the reason I'm asking that is so that we could present it as, well, if you don't want to pay for it, you don't. The other side doesn't want to have taxes taken out. They don't have to. Just those of us who want to have the taxes taken out, we could have it taken out to cover us.
Okay, I got it. Thank you, Marcia, for your call. What you're kind of suggesting is a pick and choose single payer model where people pay into a single payer system and get the benefits of it. Is that possible? I don't know. It would be difficult to do. I think the easier approach, Marcia, is what we are kind of trying to do here in the state of Vermont, and that is to become the first entire state to fund a single-payer system which would guarantee health care to all people. And I think if we can pull it off here, or if California or some other state can do it, and it works well, I think that idea will spread throughout the rest of the country. It is kind of hard at a public entity, at a public level, to say, yeah, you'll pay taxes if you want to, but you don't. That's kind of tough to do. But I would just say this as a strong single-payer advocate. 2 points to be made, Marcia. Number one, we are the only country in the industrialized world doesn't guarantee health care to all people through a national health care program. Number two, we spend almost twice as much per person on health care as do any other nation because our system is extraordinarily wasteful and bureaucratic. And third, our health care outcomes in terms of life expectancy, in terms of dealing with a number of illnesses or infant mortality, is not particularly good. So we have got to go forward. I think Obamacare is a modest step forward. We've got to go a lot beyond that, guarantee health care to all people through a single-payer system.
Detroit Johnny O in Romulus, Michigan. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Great, Tom. How you doing?
Good.
This is like a question with a positive ending. There's a way to create jobs, and first of all, it takes the corporations, the companies, that have farmed out all these work since the 70s overseas to Mexico, whatever. But there's a thing that someone invented, the electronic phone answering system. Do you think any corporations or employers out there would consider getting rid of that and hiring these disabled people to answer the phones again so that company would have a personal touch? Do you think that would ever come back?
Well, I'll tell you something, Johnny. You touch a sore spot for me, because I go nuts personally. If I have to call up the airlines or anybody else, and they got a damn tape recorder at the other machine at the other end. And it really is, I think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, or me and you, but I think it is humiliating for a human being having to have a discussion with a bloody machine there. I agree with you. I think in my office we have always had a human being answer the phone, somebody who is compassionate, who is understanding, and I will never use a tape recorder, other than on weekends or after hours. So I think that's a great idea, and I think a lot of people, I don't know, I have been on phone calls where they say, okay, now, if you want to speak to somebody, give me the last, their last name first and their first name last and the first three initials of this and that and the other thing. And if you're elderly and you try to work a phone, you can go nuts, trying to make that connection. So I think Johnny's point is a great point. I think companies would be very well served, and people would appreciate having a knowledgeable human being at the end of the phone, and we can create jobs doing that rather than having some stupid machine. But that is my opinion.
And it's shared, Bernie. When you said that damn machine, Jim, our video guy, Shano, our audio guy, they both pumped high fives in the air. Everybody, there you go. We all
they just dialed the first three,
it's crazy.
Don't get me going on it.
It's crazy.
Really,
Yep. Okay. Aaron in Los Angeles, you are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, Senator Sanders, my question is, do you think that the Affordable Health Care Act can ever offer in-home care to disabled and elderly people? Currently, in-home services, you're only eligible if you're eligible for Medi-Cal, the state Medi-Cal. And the private companies are really expensive. They charge like $15 to $25 an hour with the minimum of 4 hours. So I guess my question is, will the Affordable Health Care Act ever include in-home care to elderly and disabled?
Well, Aaron, that's a very good question on a very important issue. And obviously it depends on who controls the Congress and where we go forward on health care. Do we expand and improve Obamacare, or do we abolish it? And if we expand it and improve it, that is certainly one of the areas that we want to take a look at. Very important area. But I will tell you something, Aaron, which is interesting. I'm chairman of the Veterans Committee, and just a couple of years ago, before I was chairman, the Congress passed what we call the Caregivers Act. And the Caregivers Act helps often wives or mothers or relatives who are taking care of disabled vets at home. And we see that it's a cost-effective way to keep folks out of nursing home and provide them with quality care. And I got legislation in that we're moving forward on which would greatly expand that program. So I think it's an important idea. There are a lot of people who are in their homes who need help, who don't want to end up in a more costly, uncomfortable nursing home, rather stay at home, and we've got to move forward in that area.
Okay. Kathy in Santa Cruz, California. You're on the air, Senator Sanders.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Senator Sanders, for what you're doing for us. And my question is, after the debt ceiling problem and the October 1st possible shutdown, what are the likelihood of having more emphasis on the infrastructure to employ people, and also what is happening with the post office?
Okay. Good question on two issues that I am involved in. Kathy, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, to my mind, the crisis facing this country right now clearly is the collapse of the middle class, the fact that we have 20 million Americans who are either unemployed or underemployed. As I think you imply, if we're serious about creating jobs, one way you do that is by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. And infrastructure is a fancy word for roads, bridges, sewer systems, water systems, rail, school construction, and all of those elements in our society which make things happen. They're the foundation, the physical foundation of society. Right now, the American Society of Civil Engineers tells us that we need several trillion dollars of work. And when you invest in infrastructure, you make your country more productive. If you have a good rail system, you're keeping cars off of our highways, stopping pollution, making it possible for people to get to airports rather than having to get to where they want to go without having to get on a plane. They could go by train, et cetera, et cetera. And most importantly, that is the fastest way that you can create jobs. So I am strongly supportive of rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, and when you do that, we can put millions of people back to earth. In terms of the post office, is an issue I've been involved in quite a lot in the last few years. The issue here is to prevent the post office from shrinking significantly, from shutting down rural post offices and delivery plants, slowing down mail service, and in the process cutting 100,000 jobs from the Postal Service. I believe that a good postal service can do well economically. In fact, right now, without the onerous, horrendous burden of having to pay $5.5 billion every single year into future health retiree fund, which only the post office has to do. No other entity in the United States has to do anything like that. Without that, the Postal Service would probably be making some money right now. So we've got to get rid of that burden. We've got to give the Postal Service flexibility to figure out how they can make money, and in some areas they're doing pretty well. So the answer is we're going to work very hard on that. There is a bill that was proposed by the chairman and ranking member in the Senate, which is a very bad bill, and I'm organizing opposition to it. So the goal is to make the Postal Service relevant to the 21st century, save jobs, and help our economy by having a strong Postal Service.
Bernie, we just have about 15 seconds. What can people do to support that effort?
Get them on call up your Senate or House office, ask them to support the legislation that I've introduced on postal reform.
So support Bernie Sanders' legislation on postal reform.
A whole lot of co-sponsors right now. I think I don't know where we are. We're pretty high up, but right. We can use some more.
But not just any legislation, the one that Senator Sanders put.
Absolutely.
You got it. Okay.
That's the strongest bill out there.
There you go. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. He'll be back in just a moment taking more of your calls on Brunch with Bernie, our national town hall meeting here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Be sure to check out Bernie's website, by the way, sanders.senate.gov.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And Bernie's got his website has kind of a new look to it. It's a lot of great stuff there. Be sure to check it out, sanders.senate.gov. Welcome back. Let's see here. Jackie in American Canyon, California, watching Free Speech TV on the DirecTV satellite system. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, this is Jackie, and thank you, gentlemen, both of you. Senator Sanders, the Congress is holding the country hostage and terrorizing us with the threat of shutting it down. The President Obama, has not taken the opportunity to do what he is able to do, and that is to print or mint a coin and give it the value, because it's sovereign currency, and pay the debt. And he can do that without Congress. Can you tell me why he is not doing this, or is he as ignorant about government as the people in Congress?
Well, Jackie, I'm afraid I don't agree with you. I don't think there's any magical way to deal with the problem. What we have now is it's not a question of printing up minting coins. It's a question of political opposition of people who have a very right-wing agenda, want to make this government dysfunctional, and have goals in the future of moving this country in a way that would shock many, many people. So I don't think there are any magical solutions like printing up a coin.
Okay. And Brian in Davenport, Iowa. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello?
Brian, you're on the air.
Oh, yeah. I've been waiting there. Yeah, this is Brian Cressy, Davenport, Iowa. General delivery, 52802 is my address. Accountability questions. We have all these law enforcement agencies and state attorneys and politicians all take the same oath, and then when you have, such as me, I've been going through about 15 years of filing complaints all over with everybody. And
Brian, can you tell us what your question is for the senator?
Well, where's the accountability?
Where is the accountability in government? Okay.
Accountability is a big word. If Brian means is the average member of the Congress accountable to working families in this country and ordinary people, I'm afraid that congressperson is not. Increasingly, members of Congress are accountable to big money interests and campaign contributors and worry more about tax breaks for billionaires than they do about creating the jobs that our people want. So I don't know if that's what Brian meant about accountability, but if he does, certainly the Congress is not being accountable to ordinary Americans.
And in the minute till the break, we can thank our Supreme Court for that. How goes your petition?
Well, we're making some good progress. There are now, I believe, some 15 states in the country, plus District of Columbia, I think that's the right number, who have passed resolutions demanding that there be a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. Tom, as I understand it, there are some 500 cities and towns all across America. Mm-hmm. And what this issue does is, interestingly enough, it's one of the few issues out there that unites people regardless of their political persuasion, because whether you're a conservative or progressive or in between, very few people think it's a good idea for billionaires to be buying elections. And very few people think that is what American democracy is supposed to be about. So I think we're gaining some grassroots momentum on a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United.
That's great. That's absolutely great. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. We'll be back with more of your questions with Bernie in our Brunch with Bernie hour. Stick around. Welcome back. It's Brunch with Bernie here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls. And Frank in Cambridge, Mass. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Oh, thank you very much. I think at this time you should call it coffee break with Bernie.
Indeed.
I think you're right.
Because I wanted to commend you. I heard when I first turned you on that you were going down to one of the Carolinas to give a speech.
Yep.
And I thought about this, actually. I wrote a letter to one of the congressmen or one of these about why not getting the Progressive Caucus people with intelligent and people who are knowledgeable spokesmen to spread out and spread the word. Now, I live in Cambridge, and Cambridge is a very diverse community, and people here just don't know what's going on, especially now with the Obamacare. And I think that what you should set it like as a model, and I wonder if you could inspire other progressives to go out and just spread out, like a local school. Rent an auditorium, get an auditorium.
Well, Frank, I think you make a good point. And the truth of the matter is there are many parts of this country where people have never heard an alternative point of view from right-wing extremism. They turn on the radio and they get Rush Limbaugh and those guys. They listen to their senators or their members of Congress and they get, right-wing stuff. And they have never heard an alternative point of view. And that is certainly true of many places in the South where, compared to the rest of the country, wages are often lower, health care is less accessible, and people are in a whole lot of hurt. So one of the reasons I'm going to go down to those states is just to see if we can raise a little bit of consciousness and get some people moving. There's some great folks down there, and I want to see if we can make some contacts and work with them. I also very much believe in the concept that a former governor of Vermont talked about, Howard Dean, and that is a 50-state strategy. I do not accept this red state, blue state division. I believe that every state is dominated by working families. In virtually every state, families are hurting today because of the state of the economy. And I think we have to reach out to people all across this country to get them to stand up to this right-wing ideology, which is becoming so pervasive, and to begin to make government start responding to the needs of working families in terms of health care, creating jobs, making college affordable, protecting our environment, etc. So I think I think Frank makes a good point. I think we've got to get out all over this country and start raising consciousness.
Pat in Camas, Washington. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon. I'm calling because I was hoping the senator would once again talk about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And I was curious, does it promote offshoring jobs, and does it prohibit labeling food, particularly?
All right, Pat, thank you very much. And Tom, I think Pat has asked a very important question. Let's kind of put it on our agenda. Maybe at the beginning of the program, we'll talk about it at some length. Bottom line is, Tom and I have talked about trade agreements a whole lot. And the TPP is in line with other trade agreements that I think are going to be harmful to the middle class and working families of this country. They're going to make it easier for jobs to go from the United States to Vietnam and other countries, make it easier for the pharmaceutical industry to charge outrageously high prices in countries where people don't have a whole lot of money, make it easier for the global economy to prevent states or nations, in fact, from protecting their own interest because of an international agreement, or whether it's environmental or labor or whatever it may be. This agreement is now being worked on behind closed doors, except for many of the large corporations who seem to have access to what's going on. So it is an issue that it needs a whole lot of public discussion. And, Tom, let's put that on the agenda as something that we should get into at greater length in the future.
Okay. Deanna in Leesburg, Missouri. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Tom. I wanted to ask Senator Sanders about the statement he made for Texas and their constitution for the Republican Party, or their platform, in wanting to do away with the minimum wage. Isn't that just another way to reinstate slave labor?
Well, Diana, I would tend to agree with you. And here's what it's about. When you pass laws to protect workers, whether it's workplace safety, to say that people, for example, should not have to work with dangerous equipment and lose their fingers or their arms, or when you have a minimum wage that says if somebody in this country is going to be working, they can't be paid a slave wage. They got to be paid at least a minimum wage. If you do away with that, and you're in high unemployment areas where people desperately need work, what do you think employers are going to do? They're going to pay as little as possible. Do I think that there are areas in this country right now where people would have to work for wages even below $7.25 an hour, which is the federal minimum wage? There are. And if the economy gets worse, more people will be placed in that position. So people will be working for almost nothing. They'll be working for wages by which they can't even begin to take care of their families. They'll be earning just barely enough to stay alive. So you can call it what you want, but clearly for workers it will be an absolute disaster. But I want people to know. People say, oh, this is a crazy idea. It's not going to happen in America. To the best of my knowledge, most members, Republican members of the U.S. Senate, now support that concept. And that is in the platform of the Republican Party of the state of Texas. That is what they are talking about. So it's not a question of, Tom, I think you were reading a statement from the Republican Party under Eisenhower?
Yeah, 56 in his
They talked
reelection.
about raising the minimum wage, right?
Yep, he bragged about it.
They bragged about raising the minimum wage, and now, 55 years later, you got Republicans who want to abolish the concept. That is what is happening, and American people need to understand that.
Extraordinary. Senator Sanders, thanks so much for being with us again today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Great having you. Be sure to check out Bernie's website at sanders.senate.gov. We'll be right back.